Arsenal is boring.
I think boring is 10 years without a title. That's very boring.
That's what rival fans used to chant. Not out of respect, out of mockery.
I really want to ask you how awful Arsenal were, Merce, but you tell me in 10 seconds.
The worst I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
For years, that's exactly what Arsenal were. Grinding out 1-0 wins. No flair, no excitement. Just defense.
You support a club and you are waiting, and for so many years without a Premier League title, I think that's very boring.
Nobody could have imagined that same club would one day build the most attacking, most admired team in English football. And nobody could have imagined it would take 22 years and one heart-breaking wait to get back to the top. But to understand how Arsenal got there, you have to go back further than you think. Because before we talk about the midfielder who eventually brought the title home, the more interesting story is the story of the man who turned boring Arsenal into the most beautiful football England had ever seen.
Will you be spending heavily here?
You see, my target is to create a good team. Of course, when you buy big names, everybody is full of hope, and many times you're disappointed. You cannot buy success just by buying big names. Really big clubs who have a lot of money wait for success for 30 years now. Real Madrid has a lot of money. They didn't win the Champions Cup for 30 years, and they spend every year. So my target is not to bring big names, but big players.
Back in 1991, Arsenal were champions of England, built around a defence that felt unbreakable. Tony Adams led the back line, David Seaman guarded the goal, and Ian Wright kept the goals coming. But that success didn't last. Over the next few years, Arsenal slowly lost their identity, and by 1995, they had fallen all the way to the 12th in the table. The club didn't just need a new manager. They needed a revolution. In August 1996, Arsenal announced their new manager, a Frenchman that literally nobody in England had heard of. He officially took charge on the 1st of October 1996. The newspaper only had one question for him: Arsene who?
When Arsene Wenger took the Arsenal job, did you know who he was?
No.
And just finally, how much are the players looking forward to Arsene Wenger arriving now that you've officially been told it's going to be the end of this month?
Who?
Wenger answered that question by changing everything about the club. From the food the players ate to the way they trained and prepared for matches. But he was smart about it. He kept Arsenal's defense foundation intact and simply added creativity on top of it. Patrick Vieira arrived in 1996, Marc Overmars and Emmanuel Petit followed a year later. And Dennis Bergkamp became the artist that tied it all together. Arsenal weren't boring anymore. They were becoming something else entirely. At Christmas 1997, Arsenal sat 6th in the table, 13 points behind Manchester United. The title looked completely out of reach. Then something clicked. Arsenal went on a run. Overmars scored the crucial goal at Old Trafford, and Tony Adams sealed one of the most unlikely title wins English football had seen. Premier League and FA Cup, 1997-98, the double. But great teams never stay the same for long. Ian Wright left in 1998, and Nicolas Anelka stepped up as the next big thing, before he too left for Real Madrid in 1999. So Wenger went looking for a replacement. What he found was a struggling winger at Juventus who would managed 8 Premier League appearances and 0 goals. His name was Thierry Henry, and everything was about to change. Henry became unstoppable. Bergkamp kept creating magic. Perez brought elegance, and Vieira ran the midfield like he owned it. When Sol Campbell joined in 2001, this stopped being just a team. This became the Arsenal generation that fans still talk about. In 2002, Arsenal won another double. They beat Chelsea in the FA Cup final, and 4 days later, Sylvain Wiltord scored the title-winning goal at Old Trafford itself. But even as Arsenal celebrated, the old guard was already walking away. Tony Adams and Lee Dixon were on their way out. A new era was coming, whether the club was ready or not. That same year, Wenger started talking about something nobody thought was possible. An entire Premier League season without a single defeat. The first attempt in 2002 fell short, but one season later, Arsenal actually did it. 38 matches, 0 defeats. The Invincibles of 2003-04. After that, the greatest Arsenal team in a generation slowly began to fall apart. Vieira left in 2005. Highbury, the stadium that had been Arsenal's home for decades, closed its doors in 2006. Bergkamp retired. The stadium changed, players changed, and for the next several years, Arsenal kept chasing that same feeling without ever quite catching it again. Remember that midfielder from 2011? The one we mentioned at the start of this story? His name was Mikel Arteta, and he arrived during another difficult period for the club, right as more stars were leaving and Arsenal desperately needed leadership. He was never the loudest player on the pitch, but he understood more than most what wearing that badge actually meant. In 2014, Arteta helped Arsenal finally end a 9-year trophy drought. He became captain not long after, won another FA Cup in 2015, and retired from playing in 2016. But his story with Arsenal was far from over. Wenger left Arsenal in 2018, and the club spent the next year searching for direction. Then in December 2019, Arsenal did something nobody expected. They called their former captain home. Mikel Arteta became the new manager. The beginning was rough, but Arteta rebuilt patiently, putting his trust in young players who barely had reputations yet. Bukayo Saka became the face of the team. Martin Odegaard became captain. Saliba and Gabriel rebuilt a defense that had been broken for years. Slowly, belief started coming back to the club. But real success rarely comes easy.
If we do what we have to do, we're going to be closer. And at the end, we will win it. They win, I don't know. But if we keep knocking and being that close, at the end it will happen.
In 2022-23, Arsenal finished second, 5 points behind Manchester United. In 2023-24, they racked up 89 points, and City still finished 2 points ahead. In 2024-25, Arsenal finished second again. 3 seasons, 3 heartbreaks. Then came 2025-26. After 22 years of waiting, after 3 second-place finishes that nearly broke this club, Arsenal were Premier League champions again. Same club, same badge, same songs. The fans never stopped singing, even though all the years of nothing. And the man who lifted the trophy was the same midfielder Wenger signed back in 2011. The one nobody thought twice about at the time. Wenger built the dream. Arteta lived inside it as a player, and 22 years later, he is the one who finally brought it home. That's not just a trophy, that's a promise finally kept. So here's the real question. Can Arteta's Arsenal do it again in this season? Tag an Arsenal fan who waited 22 years for this and tell me what's your favorite Arsenal era. Do not forget to watch Premier League only on Myco. Download it now.